Good morning, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan. I am in my PJs at 7 a.m. Mountain Time here in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. And what's on my mind and my thoughts today is fall and how fall is such a potent season for rest, renewal, and release. So I started thinking about my newsletter and blog post and what did I want to say and about how busy I've been this fall and why do I make myself so busy anyway? And it all kind of came together in this idea for a fun expressive arts activity around this concept of deep rest. Good morning, Tori. So excited to see you soon, my friend. And this theme of deep rest, creative renewal, and release. So I am going to, hi Judy, paint a tree and some fall leaves using watercolor paints in my art journal this morning. And we're going to explore this theme of what I love to call deep rest. If you're brand new to painting in your PJs with Minette, welcome. This series is all about how can we use art as a creative process for self-discovery and personal growth. I love using art as a way to connect to my own intuition, to my own inner wisdom. It's also my personal, not just creative practice, but my sacred spiritual practice that keeps me grounded. I truly consider making art to be a radical act of self-love and self-care, making art and finding ways that are meaningful to us to express ourselves creatively is as important as exercise and eating healthy. I know this to be true, but it was actually proved by two women in a fantastic book called Your Brain on Art. So if you want the science behind why making art is good for you, I recommend the book. And if you need an excuse to make yourself feel better about making time for art in the midst of very busy lives, especially as we start to go into holiday season already. And in fact, a friend and I were in Michael's on Sunday and they were starting to put up the Christmas stuff. And I'm like, had my blinders on, like, I can't even think past Halloween or Thanksgiving, much less think about Christmas. But commercialism has sort of sped things up. Right. And she's like, I want to skip all the other holidays and go straight to Christmas. And I'm like, not me. I want to slow down. I want to take some time to savor life. Fall is this month of October is going to be a very busy season for me. And things will slow down in November. And I started thinking about, wow, October is always a very busy month. I have a business conference I attend every October. I usually host my own retreat, which I'm doing this week. I won't be here on Thursday this week because I will be leading a retreat in beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. I am so excited. You should see the boxes and piles of stuff all around me. And it has me thinking a lot about the theme of deep rest. So I'm going to go ahead and change my camera and start painting and chatting at the same time, which is what I love to do. And I have some old little sets of watercolor paints that are all these sort of gorgeous fall colors that I pulled out this morning. And we're going to start our activity. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. I've got a large art journal. My camera seems to be, there we go. A large art journal here. I'm loving working in this big art journal. It's one that I made this summer when I was on a personal retreat with some girlfriends. And this is a journal that my dear friend Andrea Shebelu teaches how to make her daily creative practice journal in her Watch, Learn, Play community. Really love the size of it. So I have an art journal. I have just a sheet of inexpensive watercolor paper left over from another project. I have some watercolor paints in fall colors here, and then I also have a pair of scissors and a pencil and a couple of paintbrushes. So in my group coaching program, Your Creative Renaissance, we talk about there being 8 keys to a midlife renaissance. And probably the most impactful key for the women who have gone through that program is this idea of deep rest. So I'm just going to quickly sketch out a tree here. This is an expressive arts activity. This is not about creating beautiful art. This is about creating meaningful art that tells a story. Doesn't mean it can't be pretty, but we're here to have this tree represent sort of the fall season of rest, renewal, and release. So, what do I mean by this concept of deep rest? So, for me, deep rest is what I would call absence of input. And I'm going to do wet on dry for my tree here, I think, and see where we get to. And I'm just working on just inexpensive mixed media paper, not fancy paper, not watercolor paper. Look at that beautiful, rich brown. Even though I live in Colorado, I still, when I go to paint trees, I always love my beloved live oaks from growing up in Texas. And so everything ends up looking like an oak tree. So deep rest is about creating spaciousness in our days, in our hearts, in our minds, in our spirits. It's about slowing down, turning off the phone, the television, my favorite addiction, audiobooks. I'm on a murder mystery kick right now. But I listen to fiction, nonfiction. So often when I'm down here by myself in the studio, I've got something playing in the background, and I'm learning to really lean into more silence, more just being with myself and my own thoughts. So deep rest is not about sleep, although sleep is essential to our well-being as well. It's about sitting on your porch and watching the world go by. If you can't be outside, sitting, gazing out the window at a sunrise or a sunset. Love that gorgeous sort of sienna color there, bringing in some different colors in that trunk, just sort of intuitively letting these colors come to play in here. It might be going for a slow walk and really looking and paying attention to what is around you. If where you live is anything like here, the flowers are still blooming, even though all the trees are changing. It's kind of crazy. There's still lots of sunflowers. They're definitely winding down. Our roses are still blooming. So it's this season of change that invites us to pause and consider deep rest. It's a natural season of hibernation. You may notice yourself wanting to slow down, shift your focus. Lying in the grass looking at leaves, or excuse me, looking at clouds. I'm thinking about leaves. All right, so I have this very simple tree. I am going to set this aside to dry, and I am going to grab my other sheet of watercolor paper. Put you back there. I never get tired of painting trees. I have a fun, popular tree of life painting class. I did a whole retreat on painting the tree of life. It's one of my favorite themes are trees, and they feel like an expression of my connection to nature. And so I'm just going to paint some abstract leaves on this page. Little oak leaf shape there. And I'm not going to make these too big. I'm going to cut these out and they're going to end up on the page with my tree. So returning to this idea of deep rest, again, it's about creating space in our brains for ideas and thoughts, dreams, creative inspiration. When I'm loving that color, when we're in a constant state of learning or input, we lose sight of our own connection to our own wisdom, to our own creativity. Yoga, meditation, prayer can all be versions, trying to get some that are sort of aspen looking, can all be versions of deep rest. It's not about non-doing. It's about being over doing, and being in a way that allows for stillness of the mind. So fall is the perfect season to begin to carve out some of this time as the days get shorter. Hopefully temperatures will start to cool off. It's still like unseasonably warm here. I am ready for some cooler fall temperatures for sure. Although they have had their first snow in the mountains already, so the mountains are beautiful. Okay, that's a little bit of a wonky looking leaf. But creating the leaves of my imagination. And living in Colorado, something magical about living in Colorado is that we have so many amazing evergreen trees. The pine, the spruce. Again, these are leaves of my imagination. I'm not trying to make them look realistic. So especially up in the mountains, not as much down here on the edge of the plains, although I have a spruce in my yard, which I love. We have green all year round, and they're these sort of darker greens, right? And these beautiful gray greens. And this year we seem to be having, Tori, you came the right year. We seem to be having such an exceptional year for fall color. It was not like this last year. It was like this the first year we lived here, but even then it wasn't quite this spectacular. And we have a lot of deciduous trees. They're just starting to change at the lower elevation. Where Tori is 2,500 feet higher, at least, than where I am. And up in the mountains, it's even higher than that. So we're just starting to really enjoy this season of color. And what happens often in Colorado is that we get all this gorgeous color And then we'll get crazy winds and maybe a crazy snowstorm, and all those beautiful leaves just get taken off the trees. But some seasons where we have these warmer fall periods, the leaves stay on the trees for a long time. And it is such a feast for the eyes. But at some point, those leaves are going to fall off the trees. It is the natural order of things. And so the leaves of our tree offer up the opportunity to think about, what do you want to release in your life right now? What is no longer serving you? For me, it's busyness and overfilling my calendar and really longing to slow down. And this time of the year, I'm ready to start dreaming and planning for next year, and I need spaciousness to do that. So without that opportunity for my own creative renewal, I get stuck, I get blocked. So Brad and I will plan a long weekend away somewhere, as we often do, to do our annual planning and enjoy some time together. Not the right color green, that's better. We have beautiful pine and cedar here. And even they shed some of their needles, right? So my particular tree is going to have a variety of leaves on it. And as I'm looking at these leaves and I'm thinking about this theme of creative renewal and deep rest in particular, I want you also to be thinking about, how's your relationship with your creativity right now? Are you making enough time? I know, Tori, you've been enjoying a season of creative play and rest on your, almost like a lovely little sabbatical. And even though this has already been a busy couple of months, the paintings are piling up. I am enjoying continuing to explore a new folk art style of painting in my personal practice. I shared some of that in September. But in October, we're going to focus on this theme, nonstop artsy fartsy. I love it. In October, we're going to definitely focus on these themes of midlife and fall. And where are we in our lives? What do we want more of? But before we can really look at what is it that we want, we have to take stock of, what do I need to release? What stories, beliefs, habits, activities. Are you spending too much time taking care of others without enough time for yourself? I am definitely in that season of helping out aging parents, a lot of caregiving happening. I don't know why I'm feeling like my tree needs some acorns. So not only are there going to be some leaves falling, but this time of year there's the abundant harvest of nuts and fruits. Colorado has a very late growing season, right? So there's still harvesting. In fact, we saw a blue jay flew in front of us on our walk yesterday with a great big fat old acorn. So not only am I releasing maybe some habits and some beliefs with the leaves that are falling, but I also to remember that there's all these seeds of dreams. And I'm going to have to let this dry for a while before I can cut these out. And I'm like, oh, I'll just grab my dryer. But my craft dryer is packed and at the bottom of a box to go to the retreat right now. So I'm going to have to be a little bit patient. So I'm going to let these dry for a couple of minutes. And in the description of the video, let's see how our tree is doing. In the description of the video, I put a description of the exercise, and it also included some journal prompts because sometimes I find that I need to go a little deeper into my thinking and explore my thoughts before I can get clear about what it is that I want to release. And I'll also post those prompts in our chat as well for those of you that are here watching live. And again, remembering this is an exploration of this theme. Sometimes what we need most is the opportunity really just to sit and ask ourselves some questions. Okay, it's telling me my comment is too long, so I'm just going to write these on my page here. Bear with me for just a minute. So again, the idea here is to really understand how we can use the visual and the written arts as a way to explore powerful themes in our lives, things that maybe we don't always give ourselves the opportunity to contemplate. But some of the questions that I'm thinking about as part of this exercise are: what areas of my life are asking for rest and spaciousness right now? What areas of my life are asking for rest and spaciousness right now? What am I ready to release in this season of my life? And how does rest, like consciously making the link in my own brain about how does rest nourish my creativity and my well-being? So for me personally, deep rest looks like long walks in nature as opposed to heavy duty workouts, right? Deep rest looks like, lovely long hours spent in my studio, puttering with no intention to finish or to create anything. Deep rest looks like sitting in a coffee shop with Brad or a girlfriend, or going for a walk with a friend. Um, and when I look at what areas of my life are asking for rest and spaciousness right now, I think my focus is when I'm rested, I sleep better, which means I'm not drinking too much coffee, which means I'm slowing down and not filling my days so full to the brim that I'm exhausted in the evenings because I love to spend a couple of hours making art in the mornings, and then I will often sit in front of the TV and also work on a creative project, right, with the TV on in the background. And that nourishes my creativity. Now, watching TV is not my idea of deep rest, right? It's actually for me a habit of numbing out that's very different than deep rest. So, what I need to think about is both my personal life and my work life. And the main thing to think about is not filling every nook and cranny of my time. Like planning gaps, planning days off, planning weekends off. For example, I'm leading a retreat. I'm going up tomorrow to set up. That retreat goes till noon on Sunday, clean up, tear down, come back home, and not scheduling 100 things to do on the Monday, but giving myself permission to take that Monday to rest, to putter, to unpack, right? But not to have a whole bunch of appointments or coaching sessions on that Monday, not overfilling my time with either personal or work activities. I know that rest nourishes my creativity and well being because when I'm rested, I have an explosion of ideas. I have easy access to ideas. I'll give you an idea. Yesterday, Brad and I went for a lovely long walk. Was that yesterday? No, today's Tuesday. Good morning, Carol. I would love to have you come to one of my retreats, my friend. A personal art retreat is a great, but Brad and I usually take a, personal slash business retreat once or twice a year. But we went for a long walk Sunday and had a whole business idea for another fun business. One of the expressions of creativity for Brad and I is the business we have, but coming up with other fun business ideas as well. And because we were rested, we were out in nature, it was a beautiful morning, we're walking, and so the ideas were just flowing. So I notice when I'm rested how much more creative ideation I experience, how much more I long for creative time. When I think about this question of what am I ready to release? What am I ready to release? I think about habits. I think about beliefs. So I'm ready to release the habit of overfilling my calendar with people. And I love people. So I've been doing a good job of saying, no, I can't right now. Here's when I will be available. So the habit of overfilling my calendar, the habit of not making time for exercise, like not prioritizing, I should say, not prioritizing exercise, not taking time to prep food, right? When I have food prepared, I eat really healthy. If I don't have things prepared, then I want to grab something quick or go out to make it easy. So, not taking time to prep food. And what's so interesting as I'm looking at these things that I want to release, right? They're definitely about habits, but they're all related to time for me, right? So maybe there's some beliefs to release around not having enough time or not putting myself first. So, what are some of the beliefs that I need to release? So, there's habits to be released, there's beliefs underneath those, right? And remember, no is a complete sentence. And my answer is usually no, thank you. Not right now. Here's when I'll be available, right? So I can think about beliefs. I can think about any fears that might be underneath that of what might happen if I slow down. Like I pretty much stopped posting on Instagram and Facebook for months and months now. I'm on there occasionally. I'm not on there very often. It's not my focus, and I feel good about that. In the month of October, I have three events, my own and two business conferences I'm attending. I won't be as present here on YouTube as I usually am. And so I'm present to the fact that I need to make other times to make art as well. So these are all the things that I'm thinking about. And then I think about, okay, November is coming up. I'm ready for things to slow down. And I know in the winter I'll be way more committed because it's winter. I won't be outside in the mornings, right? Other things will change that will give me more spaciousness to be here live, which I love doing. And we're looking at changing our YouTube model or schedule a little bit, in part to create that spaciousness, but in part seeing how many people watch the replays versus join me live, right? And so there's changes to be made. So I need rest in order to have the energy to do the things that I want, to have the ideas, and to show up where it's most meaningful and satisfying for me. So those are some of those questions. And it all hinges around this idea of rest and spaciousness and release, right? So we're rest, renewal, and release. That almost feels like a daily mantra that I could be journaling on frequently, right? Is this idea of I need consistent rest, consistent renewal of my energy, and consistent release, right, of what is no longer serving me. Like right now, my closet needs a massive clean up and clean out and reorganization. So I'm feeling like I'm going to come in and maybe just add some black outlines to this tree. Just somehow it's going to make it feel a little more grounded here. That was a mistake, went right over the top of that wet watercolor with that Sharpie. And sometimes simple exercises like this one, they force us to pause, right? So even I would say this expressive arts activity is a form of rest and renewal. It's creating spaciousness for our brains to really contemplate, encourage us to engage in some deep reflection, which is another one of the 8 keys. I love Sharpies, but I really don't love the smell. And then I forget. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they're smelly. And it feels important to really focus on having lots of roots as I think about this season and I think about the magic of trees and how trees grow, how they're nurtured and how they nurture, and all those falling leaves become mulch and food and ground cover, not just for the tree, but for other creatures and plants. And I heard this amazing story on some call I was on the other day about this arboretum in Arizona. It was all indoors, and they planted trees from all over the world. They were wanting to do an experiment with all these different trees from around the world. And so they created the perfect climate and the perfect environment for all of these trees. But because they were indoors and they were being taken care of so well and they weren't weathering all the seasons, they didn't have to sink deep roots. And because they didn't sink deep roots, as they got taller, they just fell over. And it took them a while to understand that that seasonal opportunity of weathering all the changes is so essential to us sinking our deep roots. So all these deep roots are from all the experiences, the threads, the stories of our lifetime. They're so important, right? And sometimes we forget how deep our roots are and we start to get a little wobbly. And in this season of release, we can release all the things that are creating all this heavy weight at the top of our busy trees and release those leaves so that they become fodder for the deep sinking of our roots in our tree. So I want you to think about that, right? Are you remembering, especially as we age? I'm very present to that in a few short months, I'm turning 60. I've had 60 years on this planet of experiences and traumas and stories and adventures and celebrations and accomplishments that make the roots to my tree deep and strong. But I have to be mindful not to let my tree get overly top heavy. All right. So some of these are still a little bit wet. So I think I'm going to come around, add some outlines to some of these. I probably won't cut all of these out right now, but I'll cut a few of them out. Intentionally leaving a little white edge there just for fun. If they're dry enough, I can certainly come in and add some texture, those veins of the leaves. And these are pretty wonky leaves, right? They're not perfect leaves. They don't represent a particular tree. I'm not trying to make beautiful, perfect art here. But I have to tell you, it was fun to paint all those leaves, and I really could have sat here and painted about 20 pages of these leaves just for fun. All right, let's get a couple of our little seeds here with our little acorns. And each of these leaves is going to represent something that I want to release. And on the back side of the leaves, they are very whimsical leaves. Good morning, Lisa. The Zentangle artist in me wants to take my time with these leaves and add Zentangle patterns to them. This is a great example of what I mean by rest and spaciousness. So I have a full list today. I have 2 classes to teach. I have my writing group. I have one of my dear friends is coming to attend the retreat, and she arrives to stay with me today. And So I'm thinking, oh, I would just could sit here for hours and doodle on these leaves. And then the other part of me is going, but your to-do list, it's so long. And so we find ourselves getting really caught between the things that we really do have to do, the things we want to do, the things we think we should do, right? It can be quite complicated to shift our belief and our mindset around what's possible. And what's possible is that I start this project now and I finish it later. That I give myself permission to take an hour this afternoon to play in the studio in between teaching and shopping. Or I give myself permission to let this project be simple as it was intended. That it doesn't need to be beautiful or complex. That what I'm intending to create here is something that is symbolic of the season. All right. I am going to work on more of those leaves at another time and have some fun with them. I'm going to set them aside for now. And what I'm going to do here, so these feel like these little acorns, right, are seeds of dreams that are yet to come. So what's occurring to me as I'm planting these seeds is the book that I'm working on, and I have a new class idea that I'm working on. I think Brad and I have decided to put in a home gym instead of our gym membership to make it easier to prioritize fitness. And so one of the, I think that third seed could be the gym. But these little dudes need to get planted down here. They fall, right? If they cling to the tree, they just stay dreams. Nothing ever happens. But when they fall out of that tree into all that beautiful dirt and mulch, then they also can grow into new acorns. So I have to release the dreams in order to let them grow and not hold on too tightly. So some of the things I'm releasing are overscheduling, um, beliefs about not having enough time, fears about what might happen if I don't push through and keep working. So let's see, I'm going to release my belief that I don't have time for fitness. I do, and I feel so much better. My body is sore this morning. I haven't been for a walk for a couple of days. Um, and I'm going to release my love of overworking. It is both the beauty and the curse of loving what I do is that I probably work more than I should. Today is a great example where I'm here with you at 7 a.m. and my workday won't end until 6 p.m. this evening. It's a long day. So in my energy of release, I'm going to release these onto the page, let them fall. The beautiful thing about leaves is like there's no control over the release, right? They fall, they get buffeted by the wind, they're not attached. My little acorns might want to be attached, but my leaves are moving around the page. And I kind of like where they are now, but I'm not going to attach them to the page. Instead, what I am going to do is to find an envelope, and I'm sorry I didn't bring one over here with me. And I'm going to just stick a little envelope on the edge of the page, or maybe in the center of the page here, with all of the leaves in it, so that I remember what I'm releasing, and I also remember. That's fantastic. That's fantastic, Lisa. Yay, you. So I have not been doing as good with my walking, but I love the goal of giving yourself a distance goal to reach. In fact, I have a friend who is walking the Camino de Santiago right now, and I told Brad is something I would love to do. I would love to go back to Spain. I would love to walk a part of the Camino. Seeing her pictures has really motivated me. And the main thing to get in shape, like it doesn't feel, I think she's doing 10 miles a day. And I'm like, I can do 10 miles a day, right? I know that I can. I think I might want a little bit of an evergreen tree to remind me, right, that it's okay to hold on to some things as well. Not everything needs to be released. So, in this season, to be reminded that there's still some green out there, to be reminded that the green will come back as well. So, that, my friends, is our fun fall release activity to just be present to this idea of deep rest and our need for renewal and release in this fall season. Good morning, Yvonne. We're just finishing up. So I encourage you to create your own tree and leaves for release as you think about what is it that you need to let go of, what do you need to make more room for, and remember that rest is the most important, especially brain rest, is the most important thing for renewal and release. Thank you so much, everyone. Tori, can't wait to see you Wednesday evening. And the rest of you, I will see you next Tuesday after my retreat. Have a beautiful rest of your week. And would love to tag me on Instagram or send me an email with your tree of release. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye bye, everybody.